What's up, everyone? It's Kate DeRocher from Wildly Unprepared, and today I'm joined by Oren, who you may know from the Hulu documentary Fyre Fraud. Oren, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to chat with you. So I actually DM'd Oren after watching the documentary, was that a year ago?
Almost, yeah.
A long time ago, and I was like, you're funny. Can I please interview you? And now here we are. It's happening. I just want to know about you and your life and all the things that have happened since that documentary. So let's just start with who you are and what you do.
Basically, I went to art school, did the whole traditional route, worked in the agency world, did the small, the big, the corporate, did it all. And in New York, I basically just was meeting these people randomly at coffee shops that were had meme pages and were doing things on Instagram that were different, where now in hindsight, it's just it's not that crazy now.
But at the time it was.
Yeah, it was oh my God, that's a memer.
I can't believe that's even a word, memer.
Yeah.
The word influencer makes me want to die a little bit. Memer's even worse, maybe?
So that's it. I just kind of was randomly running into them, and I'd be like, hey, you're so-and-so. And then, the next week, again, running in, whatever. And then slowly just kind of building rapport and being loved what you did last week, but, as a graphic designer, I think you could do better.
Yeah.
And they're oh, that's a option. I didn't know you could brand a YouTube page and be branded,
Bulb.
They basically asked me to start working for them, fuck Jerry, from Wednesday when I met them to Friday, I was offered a job. And I just kind of was sitting there for the first month, and I just was what do I do in this office? This isn't a studio. There's no clients. It's just, we have a meme, sit on it.
So how do you do that? How do you create a product out of these memers?
Honestly, if you do it the way we did it, which was professional, it's like copywriters sitting in a room and just hashing out a comedic script, you know what I mean? I'm not a copywriter, I'm not gonna give myself that much credit, but it was that same dynamic of you lock yourself in a phone booth, two people, and you're just all right, let's pound some coffee, let's smoke a joint, let's do something, let's power through these 10 Jack in the Box memes. And you're with one of the funniest people, sure. You crack each other up over nothing at that point. And then it just flows, and and then the magic happens. Then, that next month was when Fyre kind of came in through the doors. It was basically the first client. Before that, like I said, we were just one-off memes, and now they're you have a full campaign.
Oh my gosh.
And so I've worked in all these different agencies and different sized companies where I was I could do it. And they're great. All you got the whole thing. So slowly, by bit by bit, it was just I'd gather this part of the project, and then this company would drop out because of they're not getting paid, which is a red flag.
Yeah, it's
but
a slight issue.
But at Jerry Media, we took it as a challenge accepted. And so, I just picked up all these new skills, and I'm on YouTube, learning a full day's worth of tutorials to do some new skill, and I'm I guess that's something I do now.
You'd only been with this agency for a month, and suddenly you're put on this project of all projects.
But at the time it was cool because you're oh wow, I'm gonna start the new Coachella.
So it started off as something that you were passionate about, that you were excited about.
I've come from the music graphics world, in LA, I've designed in music magazines, so it kind of was just perfectly handed back. And then it was just obviously fast forward, a disaster, not so natural. I'm just thinking back now of how much worse could things have been if I really couldn't have been able to juggle all those things. And since then I've gone to a few music festivals that brought me to consult or to just work on something.
That's amazing.
Mostly destination ones that are we have the same demographic, the same idea, the same kind of whatever, but we just do it better. We do it. Yeah, we actually have a whole team, and we're doing it. I just went to one in Fiji in December where it was their 7th year.
Really?
And they're
and
yeah.
It was legit.
It was super legit. They even ran a whole campaign last year or 2 years ago that was the real Fyre Festival, and they
I love
super
that so
ballsy.
Much. That's amazing.
You go there and you're this is totally doable. Why did they fuck this up? This isn't rocket science. These guys literally just got to a beach and were party, but
it's
nobody.
Not a hard formula, really.
Yeah, but some security, build infrastructure so no one is porta potties, food, simple, basic. I mean, again, this one wasn't so luxury, but it was still nobody died. I mean, nobody died in fire, but still nobody
died. I missed that. That's terrible.
No, thank God. That was
nobody died and nobody
died.
Okay, so your campaign, your whole strategy for Fyre Festival was actually super impressive. You talk about stopping the internet, breaking the internet. So you did those orange tiles. Where did you come up with that idea? And is that Are you able to replicate that now?
I've seen a lot of people trying to replicate it, but I think they don't understand the full idea behind it. They think like, I just post a color block of any color.
I've thought about doing it.
Yeah, it makes sense in a small scale. You're like, a color block, of course, it's different. But then we really kind of built it into like a more complex thing where it was like, you saw, first of all, 400 different people that are pretty, like very big doing it at once. So your feed was probably like a big wall of it.
It was. That's factual.
Yeah.
I was sitting at my ex-boyfriend's and we were like, what is this?
Right. But the idea behind it really was like a whole color theory thing that comes from like design. It's simple. I'm a huge minimalist in everything I do, so I was just like, let's just fuck with everyone and let's just do like the most like absurd, like annoying, in your face type of like, just do nothing and just like,
yeah,
you know.
Just this bright orange square.
First there were people who were like, I just love Ja Rule. And just posting like whatever. And there were like people who just like got into it because they were like, this is cool,
yeah.
What's going on? And it just took its own life.
I was into it. I was super intrigued. I was like, how do I get there? Thank God I didn't go, but it worked. Your strategy worked.
It worked. It's crazy to like think, because that wasn't, my goal was never to be like, we're going viral. Mm-hmm. We're gonna blow this thing out of, like, you never can plan that necessarily. You know, there's a lot of things that factor in. So for this to be, you know, 3 years past and we're here talking about it, like, it is an impressive moment for design as a whole.
Okay, so let's talk more about Fyre Festival.
Yes.
My main question is just like, what the hell? What happened?
I don't even know. No.
That was you the whole documentary.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm the social media guy. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, the world's still kind of like, who's to blame? And I'm very much like, more public than most people in this.
When did you realize this is definitely a fraud?
When I got there. It was like crazy to me to work on something for so long, and then there's like moments in the meetings where you're like looking at each other, like your coworkers, and you're like, what he just said is kind of crazy,
you like
right?
walk out, you're like, dude, what?
We used to walk to, like, from their meeting, we were like in Soho and they were in Tribeca, and so we'd walk there, and the whole time back and forth we're like debriefing, you know, and being like expecting crazy.
Right. A lot of things are like talked about. There's a lot of hype for things and not everything comes through. So we're just kind of like normalized to it, I feel like.
Yeah, totally. And also with the internet, you're like, everybody just has like an idea and they're just gonna do it. And it's like, you could just, I mean, 99.9% of the time, people just do it and no one gets hurt.
Right. Nobody flies to the Bahamas, generally.
And the content is like actually fine. But it's like in one of those moments where you can never really tell what something's going to turn into. I always like to tell people, like, your brain is automatically, or especially in like an American society, if something fails, the venue or whatever is just gonna be like, we're so sorry, here's a free ticket, we're so sorry, like.
How do we fix it? It's gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the top of what we've experienced as a society. Like, we've never seen an international crisis and people being stranded and like a celebrity being involved. Like, we've never seen that, to have that as the example where you're like, instead of buying Coachella tickets, you're like, ooh, this could turn into an international crisis.
We're very optimistic.
We're very optimistic. I think we look at the world in a very half full kind of way. So this kind of like made me look at things like, I've worked on all these crazy things, and now I'm like, what if any of them turned crazy? Like,
because any of them could.
Any of them could. Yeah. This really could have been just fine. And I've worked other music festivals, like I said, and it was one of those things where we'd leave meetings and being like, it's probably fine.
Right.
Like, they've probably got it figured out. We're not getting involved in their business. Obviously, it's none of our business to figure out if they have like food, like all these like little bits and pieces that are.
Your job is the social media.
Yeah, we come, we talk about our part of the puzzle, and we leave. So
why were you the guy who was willing to be so open about it? To go on this Hulu documentary, to even do interviews now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my thing in the beginning was, I'm ignoring this. I left Fuck Jerry and I was like, I'm never talking about this. And moving forward, those guys are making a documentary about a black hole, and I'm just like, I'm not wasting efforts on it. And I knew that they were making it. Like, the night that it failed, when we were on the island, we were like, we need to go back and film. And so the whole time I was like, you guys lost all this money and time, move on. And then months later, I was backpacking in Asia and just having the best time of my life. And then I like read an article that's like, Hulu teams up with Billboard and like all these like big names that are teaming up for like another one. Mm-hmm. And I already had whispers coming in from like people in the agency that they're teaming up with Netflix. So I was like, they got that deal, and then there's like another deal. all these giant corporations are about to make more money off of my hard work, where in the first place, I ate shit. Like, and so I'm like, this is kind of crazy. Like, I'm not okay with this now. The second one really tipped me. I was just like, I don't feel like having everyone else enjoying the fruits of my labor.
That's fair.
Where I got no credit for. You know, it was like a year, I couldn't even put that in my portfolio for my next job. It's like a whole gap. And I'm like, all right, I'm getting involved. And so I reached out on LinkedIn to like everybody in that article, like all the producers, the directors, whatever, and the CEO of Billboard randomly, like was the only one who messaged me.
Oh my gosh.
And then 30 minutes later, we're on the phone. And then as I get on the phone, he's like, I'd like to loop in the producer. And I was like, whoa, this is fast. Yeah, I was like, this is not what I expected. So we're now like all having like a conference call, and I'm like in Thailand, just being like, no, I'm in LA, like business as usual, like flip-flops.
Don't worry, everything's fine.
Yeah, so, and they were like, yeah, like we want you to interview right away, and I'm pretending like I have meetings and I can only come in like a few weeks and whatever.
A very good businessman.
I mean, I had to enjoy the rest of my vacation. So I basically flew back and then zigzagged back to New York and was like on camera like immediately.
Wow.
Again, it wasn't like a vengeance thing. It was just like, I'm done letting my story be told. Like, I have no real animosity towards anyone I worked with. Like, nobody hurt my family. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really losing time and like respect and kind of like the effort that I put in is fine. You know, I'll get over it. Yeah. But it's like, it's not one of those things where I'm like a spiteful person who just wants to like go after them and make sure they can't sleep at night and whatever. So the whole motive was really to tell my story.
Okay.
I was like, I'm not gonna let all these corporations just tell my story and then I'll be written out of history of like the guy who just did the biggest social media marketing campaign ever and just nobody knows.
Yeah, literally ever. So when I watched the documentary, I immediately like liked you the best. I thought you were hilarious. You were just like so calm, so chill, like whatever about it. And I mean, I'm the one who DM'd you, and I feel like that's probably happened a lot. Gotten a lot of random recognition over this.
Sure.
How has your life changed since being a part of it?
A lot. I mean, I don't design anymore. My job offerings are, thank the Lord, really plentiful and like good options now instead of like, you know, struggling for crumbs. When the documentaries came out, they did the explanation for me. Like, I didn't have to go door by door and be like, I'm a good guy, you know? So that cleared a lot of things for me, and a lot of businesses were all of a sudden like interested in working with me. I mean, a lot were also very hesitant. Like like a dream client of mine, which I'm not gonna say their name, was just like, honestly, we're kind of scared to like get involved with your name. So it was just like, just trying to figure out, what am I now? What do companies think of me? What can I charge? What do I do now? Because people were like, we want you to like consult. And I was like, I've never consulted. Like, what do you charge for an idea? Like
Googling it.
Yeah, I'm like, consulting, define.
How much does a consultant charge?
I think the biggest like life change is just like, I'm really enjoying the journey now. Whereas like before it was like, oh my God, I have to like go to an interview, hide Fyre Festival, pretend like that didn't happen.
So you're like really on this journey of like finding who you are, what you can offer, really like finding your voice and your brand and everything.
I'm constantly working on projects that I've never worked on.
That's awesome. You're like the living embodiment of what my channel is, Wildly Unprepared. Like just
it's
going through life, kind of figuring it out as you go. I mean, like I never thought I'd be here, but here I am. You are wildly unprepared.
I was very unprepared.
It's perfect for you right now. I love to see where your life has gone, like from the documentary to here, like so many twists and turns. It's super cool to see you just like do all this stuff. So
I'm just here for the journey.
I love that. Thanks for being on Wildly Unprepared as a truly wildly unprepared person.
Felt it, yeah. It felt interestingly connected to this.
That's how I am, so that's why it's the title. Well, thank you. And you guys, follow Oren. What's your Instagram?
Oren Juice. ORENJOUS.
Nicely with the orange theme.
That was not timed. My middle name is Jordan, so it's like OJ, Orange Juice. It never, it's just all is like one orange world.
This creativity in one man, I love it. All right, you guys, subscribe. Tune in next time on Wildly Unprepared.